Oh, I didn't. See if I got that set up right.
Yeah, make sure it's not on your tummy.
I just caught your head a little bit.
It doesn't need to be on your shirt.
Right.
You don't want
And
people seeing your big pot belly.
hey, we're live, baby.
What?
We're live. Yep. Very alive.
Oh, done.
Mm-hmm. I'm eating popcorn. Delicious. Really hitting the spot. Good evening for anybody that's out there this early into the stream, but I'm going to save it like I do every time to Facebook and Twitter X. Well, we're lucky that we can do this. You know, it's really
Yeah.
still, I hope it lasts for a while, as long as the next level wants to allow it to last, you know, given the climate and the governments in the world. It's because the next level is holding it back that probably we have as much freedom as we do. Anyway, old school Dave's here and DSM 999. Greetings, folks.
Hello. I don't know why I said it like that.
Oh, I didn't put up this thing. I put that down. I shouldn't have done that. Okay. All right, so I just got to share this with a few places. Oh, let's see what happened there. Where's my.
In other news, our insurance went up by $30.
Our insurance went up.
Which, considering we took out that utility pole at the campground and they paid $3,000, it's not that bad.
Right, right,
They're making us pay for our own repair over the course of a year.
right. I guess that's what's happening, huh? Well, it was good that we could get the insurance to cover it, especially at that time when we were like flat broke, right? We didn't
We're
have
just those
we just barely had enough money for gas to get back to where we are now. Hey, don't put that popcorn so far away.
Set it down for a second.
Mm-hmm.
We should plan better.
Oh no, no, no.
10.
That would be anti-Sawyer. That's not necessarily bragging about that, but it is what it is, right? But let's see what's next.
What's next as you do your thing?
I gotta share with Facebook. I got distracted. Happens easily. Popcorn distracted me.
Oh,
Okay, we got a communication with Facebook. And now I'll have one with Twitter X.
boo.
I guess I made my title too big for Twitter X to get the keywords in there. All right, that's okay. I don't know if anybody pays attention from that anyway, but you never can tell, right?
True.
Okay, so I'll just pop out my chat. And old school Dave, hello, wonderful YouTube friends. I know I said that already, but been busy as heck, he says. Please excuse my absence, buddies. And yeah, it's always great to have your participation, old school Dave.
Yeah. I miss you.
And so DSM 999, yes, with a mouthful of popcorn, you speak only in vowels, laughing out loud. Really? Oh, that's interesting. Actor Michael Merchant says, hope you both are having a great day. Thank you. I hope the same for you. And everybody, actually, except, well,
Everybody.
I shouldn't say everybody. I
I don't
wish I was more altruistic about some, but
But yeah, really, people that are murdering and stuff like that.
yeah,
No, thank
really.
you.
But in a sense, I don't because, I wish they would wake up and recognize that that's not behavior that's going to get them anywhere, really. Because the next level is all about harvesting spirits and souls. And so, you have to come up to their standards in some way to have a future. Well, I mean, I'm not after it for the future. I don't think that way, but it's just that's the way it is. It's just um, if probably if I did think that way more, maybe I would be better than I am. But anyway, we don't need to get into judging ourselves because everybody's got you know a whole basket of lessons to work on. Anyway, moving on from that, uh, I believe anyway. Strange and Scary New England. Yeah, Strange and Scary New England. I
Uh huh.
bet you've got some locations on your mind up there in New England that would be good for a photo shoot.
They've been in the chat before.
Yeah, send us a message on what places there might be to visit if we ever get up there then again, which we will, I think. Um, Sawyer, what are you thinking about evangelicals talking about the 23rd OS of September? Well, the way I see things right now, I don't know what they're saying about it in particular, but I'm not going to say that what they're saying about it is wrong. But at the same time, what we're going to be seeing, according to Doe in the Beyond Human tapes, I think session 11 or maybe it was 4, I get that mixed up. But both those sessions in particular talk about the future, and Doe felt like there was going to be thousands of spacecrafts coming in from different parts of the heavens, and the next levels part of the heavens, I believe, are the comets, and that's to me the seven lamps in the Revelation 4:5 that describes seven lamps of fire, and that those are they describe them as seven minds, seven individuals that are uh, um, I guess I don't know what their positions are exactly. Whether some are lieutenants or captains or whatever their terminology is. I'm not saying they don't have actually that kind of a ranking system. They don't wear insignias telling somebody else how long they've been a general or whatever their position is in the hierarchy of the next level. And that's not even a hierarchy that humans can conceive of because it's the purest hierarchy that can be because nobody is actually wanting to serve uh, um, those that are younger than them. They want to serve their older members. So there's no self interest in an older member serving those that are younger, unless their older member gives them a task to serve those that are younger. And that's exactly what we saw with T and Doe and Crew, in my opinion. And it's a the design in this chapter in Revelations it talks about the 24 elders, and that can be documented as being in the class. You've heard Doe say it actually, and talked about it a little tiny bit. He never spent much time on that kind of thing because he wasn't trying to you know show fulfillments of prophecy. He didn't need to. It's when you don't know the information that you try to show fulfillments of prophecy, and that's me. And I don't know the information like Doe knows the information, and so and like everybody else, the best I can do is go by what clues he gave as to the fulfillments of prophecy, and knowing that some of the prophecies in the Revelation uh, materials are that John didn't get correct. And so it's a matter of, in my mind, looking for consistency because there's repetitive things that are happening. They're not actually repetitive. That's not the right word for it. They're like like simultaneous viewpoints that can apply to various times within the whole schedule. Like the seven lamps in Revelation 5:4-5 uh, seem to be at a time where they are announcing the beginning of the experiment again in on the Earth. So it could apply to a number of circumstances or a number of experiments that were equivalent in the past on the Earth. Where they're following, they set it up so that there's a whole bunch of patterns that you're going to continue to see. The number seven, and the seven number represents the end. Also, it's the end of a cycle. If you look through the Hebrew, the Hebrew and the record books of the Judeo Christian Islamic history, um, the strain of the mind from the next level interfacing with the human population in a more direct way to keep the balance with what the lower forces were doing, so that people would know that there was creators of this earth and the life forms on it that have a plan for this. To think that there's this kind of magnificent planet and life forms on it, even though when they get to human, they cease being magnificent in a next level way, and they're magnificent in an evil way towards destruction, because they've become waste, because they have no concept of the next level's existence anymore, and they don't want to serve a higher power because they think they have the qualities of being that higher power, and that the only thing they think they lack. I'm talking about the space aliens. The only thing is they think in general, I'm talking about. I'm not saying there's not exceptions to this and variances of this thinking, but and I didn't get it for myself. That's why I know I can trust it. It came from Doe's mind and throughout the documents, little bits here, little bits there. USA Today, that document, and the Undercover Jesus Services Before Departure document, and Doe's Final, all of them, but especially um, the ones that happened after I left. I'm not really basing it on that because that's meaningless to when they were happening. Because that was Doe's plan, T's plan, and they're all working on this Earth project. it's not, the people that say that God left, and didn't come back, and that's why everything went to pot, not to pot, but to destruction. But they're ignorant. They're ignoring what they don't know for the most part, and we all do that. So I'm not really, like measuring anybody like that. But I think we do. Maybe some have it down to where that's not part of their package. But anyway, but
We all have different things.
yeah, we all have different, slightly varied uh, uh, timeshare with influences, with the discarnate minds that are floating around us, in their plasma-like condition of like a database kind of object that uh, is a living remnant of the mind that was in that vehicle when it died. It's a reflection of it, or an echo of it, or a coloration of it, I guess. So I'm not sure the best terminology for that. I was um, a shade is what I felt like was a decent word resembling of what humans are to what Adam was when he was in his next level body before he um, flunked
What
some
was that?
tests.
What was that question Sorority asked him?
Which one? I don't remember now.
I think it was Sorority when we started listening to the tape. 285.
Oh, right in the beginning?
Uh huh.
Oh, you don't mean the beginning of tonight?
The beginning of tonight.
Oh, the beginning of tonight. I can look for it.
When he said 2,000 years ago when you were here.
Oh yeah, right, right.
That's the only reason why I brought that up
That's
because
a
I
good place to go to right now. Yeah,
maybe.
make sure this is still up. Okay, good. And there it is. Okay, good. I'll go right to that. And actually,
Hmm.
okay, I'll just put a little bit of my notes on the screen, and these are my notes, so they're not exact words in many cases, because I can't type that well. But I haven't learned to anyway. But
I mean, people go to school for that.
I know, and you probably have to, like Nora Rhodey, she typed 90 words per minute.
I saw this thing with this guy. He actually was in a wheelchair and he had a disability. His arm, his his he was not. His arms were not shaped right. The fastest he had ever typed was 227 words per minute.
Wow,
Yeah, and there
wow,
was video. Like he was.
amazing.
It wasn't a lie.
Yeah, he's making music on that keyboard,
Crazy.
Crazy beats.
Mm,
Yeah, I can tell when I'm typing away and while listening, and I'm thinking, uh, I know I'm getting behind, and I use abbreviations, and
uh-huh.
I know I'm misspelling words and missing words, and then, you know
But then you're not thinking about what's happening.
right, and then I'm not thinking about what is happening, so it's anyway, but uh,
We're so
so you go
getting.
back and listen to it again, and again and again and again, and
That's what we do. Anyway,
yeah,
let's not get off track.
right, right.
Because I
But
forgot what we were saying.
Sorority brought up that he was having he says I don't get it. He says like when 2,000 years ago, but when you left and whoever was there, assuming it was us, the 20 to 30 to 40 years. after Jesus left, he's talking about. Uh, um, uh, well, Doe then comes in and says that the correct is a way of expressing it to say that leave out the personal stuff of who it was that was here 2,000 years ago. You know, not assuming that it's us and not assuming that uh, um, Doe was doing the task of Jesus, even though we knew that was the case. But it's not like a member of the next level that wants to portray their tail feathers in like a religiously correct way. Because they're not that same person anyway. In reality, they've grown from what that task was 2,000 years ago. So they don't want people to, well, it's not that they don't want them. They don't, they know it's not as accurate to think about um, the reality of who these individuals are by by only looking at what they were in the record books 2,000 years ago. But our programming from our ancestry contains that, you know, for a lot of people. And so there's all kind. Well, there's a whole lot of ramifications to what I'm saying, and I don't know if I expressed something decent there, but uh, I'm going to move on because it kind of clarifies itself, and that doesn't need to be focused on. But any further, but leaving the personal out of it anyway. But so Cerrone then expresses himself again by talking about the Jesus disciples were remaining after Jesus left, and they were there a while before they started getting crucified. And Cerrone says, "What did they do wrong?" And Doe says, "Don't think they got off track." Uh, uh, and then he says, "Sure that Jesus, in an attempt to help them, had he been present with them at the time, because he could be present even invisibly and still be physical in that environment." Yes, it is. The next level, uh, right, right. This whole thing was about desperation and the kind of desperation that somebody would have if their older member that they recognized was their older member left ahead of completing the classroom. Or that was the completion of the classroom because the older member was called back to leave. And so what was left behind would be the students. And Doe always felt, and it felt like he and T both felt that uh, even if it was going to happen that way, I don't know if I can express this correctly. He didn't think it was going to happen that way, the same way as it happened 2,000 years ago, with the older member leaving and then the ones uh, having the desperation of not knowing what to do with a very hard task that everybody was going to hate, of bringing the reality of what Jesus was, pro- you know, providing us with to a public that would hate him for it because he was actually disavowing the human family and trying to help us grow to become members of the new family that he was from. And so it's a huge step. It's a tremendous step. And so he had the desperation, and desperation can go wrong. You can have a desperation that is actually negative on your body and your mind because you're like worried all the time, or you're I'm not sure I'm got the best words for that right now, but do you remember any of the keywords? Well, you wouldn't be hyper. You wouldn't be like part of the desperation
Right,
is to,
you could sink into depression.
right. That's
It's
right.
like
That's a big
I
one.
almost picture it like the the fire the fire danger sign where it's like low, moderate, blah blah blah. You want to be right in the middle. You don't want to tip over under.
Yeah,
I mean, as far as like you want a steady amount of desperation, of seeking, of thirst, of wanting to be with pull on your older member's mind, being
and the more you do pull on your older member's mind by reading their materials and listening to their tapes, then the more you are actually getting uh, doses of their minds, because that is their mind. What they said is the reflection of what their minds are on for the entire task that they're among us, trying to give us their minds. They don't give us things that aren't going to be beneficial potentially for us. They give us what we need to build muscle. And they know we can handle it if we ask them for help. If we try to come up with our own help, then it's not going to work
that's where
because we won't be getting the highest help at that moment for that circumstance.
we're dealing with our influencers.
Right.
Said if you're stuck, if you're not moving fast enough, something's wrong. You're doing it wrong.
In other words, to get rid of influences faster and faster
And to get tasks to
to complete the task, right,
get
as quickly as you can, because that's the way all old members are,
we're
and
making
young,
this up. We're not
no,
making these words up. We're just like saying things because it like that's just what we listened to today in the tape.
yes, and we don't want to give you anything that is going to uh, take away from that, and because even though what we're observing is the graduation that took a long time. It took uh, generations. It took 2,000 years. It took more than that. Whatever the thousands of years is, a small amount of time for the next level. But that doesn't mean that a lot of things don't happen during that time. Uh, a tremendous amount of things can be happening. In fact, a tremendous amount of things are happening all the time, and we don't know about it because we can't see it. Right, but you can see it especially when you see the corrals going crazy and people running around and killing each other, and and the authoritarian state coming about more and more and more in all these different countries, and everybody taking their sides, and so yeah, it's yeah, all these things were talked about and talked about and talked about. And then when the next level finally puts them into motion, you see that they take a big jump, and all of a sudden they've done things in smaller stages that are also big jumps, like what happened in 2019, 2020, and what happened in 2007, 8, what happened in um, um, 2000 and 2001, and um, and before that, I could keep on going, but the growth of the things that were happening were bigger and bigger relative to this time frame. I mean, so a historian could say, well, not that many people died during those wars that the United States started, in different places, but so that wasn't bigger, you know. I mean, that's just negative. There's always somebody that's going to try to shoot you down, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, the fact is that we're only going to recognize that um, that T and O were here. They're the return that was talked about by Jesus and his Father, and the kingdom coming back. His those older members, older student members were coming back. That spoken about as the 24 elders, which at one point actually we were at that number in the class, and and that number represents like positions, tasks that individuals were going to be given. And some of them were going to have their own spacecrafts and squadron, if you want to put it that way. And that's what's depicted in Revelation uh, 4, 5, and beyond that, where it talks about that each of the four living beings, which is the proper translation of the word that's used in English in the King James and other versions as beast, which isn't the same beast that's used for the other Greek word that is a poisonous animal or a poisonous being, which is referring to the opposite of the next level, living beings. Anyway, so I could go into that a whole bunch, but I'm not going to right now. But but those four are described using different species, which I hadn't thought of this before. But one of the species might have been. Let me look at this a second. Okay, Revelation 4, 5 says, out of the throne, which is the next level spacecraft, that is the headquarters for whatever's happening on this planet and other places, but this planet has one headquarters. And then, so it proceeds lightning and thundering and voices. And voices means their mind. They're sending us their thoughts. And there's seven lamps of fire burning before that throne. And not necessarily, before isn't necessarily the word for it, but they're coming from that throne. They're working for the throne, working for headquarters, and they're seven minds of what they say God deity, and these aren't spirits. These are minds that are living minds. In other words, they don't die anymore. Like human minds aren't living minds, except to the degree that they have the potential to keep on living. Because the definition of living for the next level is not dying ever. So, and Jesus talks about this in that way as well. But I'm not going to try to go through that. But but then it says in the next verse, Revelation 4, 6, and before the throne there was a sea of glass like unto crystal, and in the midst of the throne and round about the throne were four beasts full of eyes before and behind. So, this has references to Ezekiel, right, and things like that. But the eyes are, one way of looking at that is their computer systems and how they can monitor anybody's thoughts if that person wants to open up to the highest source for their help and direction. And so it's full of eyes. Should I look and see if you're actually recording it? Let me see. Oh, there you go. There's one. Those are blueberries.
Look, they hurt. Wait, hold on. It's really hard to try to. Oh my god, I'm such an idiot. There.
Very good. I like that. Kathy's got a great sense of humor. I'm looking at that popcorn again. But it's really good to have, a balance because, what I'm talking about is so dry. I mean, it's not, but it's informative to me, so it's interesting, very interesting, and it's and fun. I have to admit, it's fun to see these things, and I'm not saying that I see it all perfectly, but I think I see parts of it that to me are so beautiful. Because what I was going to get to was that each of these four living beings are described as the first one is like a lion. So I had that dream where a cat came to me and had Chakotay's face on it in it. The cat was blue and white, and it wasn't like blue on one on the top and then white on the bottom. It was like streaked through it because it had a lot of hair. It had a big thick coat on this cat. Uh, yeah, you would probably love to color it. We should maybe try to figure out how to draw it, and maybe we can ask for some advice from some of our friends that are drawing artists. But I don't know. We could probably come up with it. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Have our own coloring book, right? Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. So anyway, so the first living being was is described as like a lion. Now I'll talk about more about the overview of this in a minute, but the second living being is like a calf. I believe that is well. It's interesting that it's saying that it's actually defined as a tender, juicy shoot. In other words, it's not just a calf. It's a calf, right? It's a child. It's a new offspring. Um, and it can be a boy or a girl in the context. So we're talking about like a mammal because it has to do with animals. A calf, a bullock, a heifer. Yeah. So the second one is like a mammal, but the first one is more like I guess a feline, which is got a type of mammalian, right? I don't know. I don't know what the difference is between them in times biologically, really. They still have mammary glands and they give birth to a being. Yeah, they're all mammals. But a lion is a different I know, but it's a different species, right? In biology. Yeah, I think it is. And it's got different characteristics. It's a prey animal, right? In the in the wild, yeah, they're predators. That's what I'm saying. Oh, they're not the prey, right? They're a predator animal, right? So in other words, the first living being is using a vehicle that probably has a history in its evolution, in its genetic evolution, of being um, an animal that preys on other people. So they would have overcome that characteristic and influence while they were doing tasks in the human kingdom from whenever it started. Let's say it started for some during the Moses time, and some during the Jesus time, and some during the Tiando time. All having potential new births, new deposits of souls taking place that were growing, and all having returning souls coming back to take vehicles to carry on with what they still needed to overcome if they were going to graduate into next level membership at some point. So anyway, so the third one had beast had the face as a man, and that word man I believe is rooted in Homo sapien. Yeah, anthropos, like anthropological, right? So yeah, so that word is clearly talking about humans, and so that's what. So that's so human is a characteristic in itself because it has to do with what developed because of the influence of the lower forces to get somebody to get a potential member, well, no, a member of the next level to get them off track. And that's what happened with the Adam experience. And then the strength of the mind of that next level member that's inhabiting that vehicle that we're calling Adam, then uh, um, since they're made of the same mind as their older members, they see that as the lesson, and so they work on it. And then he graduated back into the next level, uh, and it's depicted as Enoch. They say that Enoch walked with God, and and then left, I believe, with I forgot how they said it exactly, but so that was a way of, and T verified that these things were evidence, not evidence. No, not that's the wrong word to use because T wasn't thinking of that things in evidence because she wasn't trying to prove anything to anybody. So that was the exact wrong word to use in that context uh, because it's not accurate. That's the reason. And so, but my understanding of what T's mind was that, which she wrote in the UFO Missionaries Extraordinary book, that Doe was the return of the same soul that did the task of Adam and then graduated back into the next level to assume his previous, in a growth post because he overcame the influence of the lower forces, uh, the space alien souls, and then he came back, and his next task that was given to him was to take over the vehicle called Moses and do a task for the next level through that vehicle, and which he did, and he also went back to the next level. Well, the next level took the vehicle with them, according to the T and O. That same soul came back to do a task that was kind of in between, a little different than the task that Moses started and the task that Jesus would do later as Elijah. And that was actually to, I guess, um, really show the difference between the power of the next level and the power of those that were thinking of themselves as gods, the space aliens, to humans at that time, and that humans were looking to get the things that they want humans to do for them, to be their slaves. And that's what humans are to the space aliens. They look down on the human kingdom. The next level doesn't look down on the human kingdom. The next level knows that the human kingdom is an evolutionary kingdom
Stepping
beneath them, a stepping stone, right, to future membership in the next level. So, but through the step is to overcome the characteristics of human, and which is the disinformation mind, which is the misinformation mind, and we can go into the details of that. But maybe you should go to the Heaven's Gate website and read it from Doe's mind, uh, because there's so much to it that it's easy to actually jump to conclusions as influences influence each of us to question things or to not that questioning's wrong. Questions are fine because we are. I mean, it's natural to be doubting what we're told. That's not a bad characteristic, but we can get to a point to where we continue and continue and continue to doubt the same things over and over again. And if we don't get fed up with that, if we don't have any desperation to get out of that loop, and the next level helps us have desperation. But and they help the whole human kingdom have desperation, and and that either becomes somebody that ends up going against the next level, or somebody that graduates, grows to seek to grow towards the next level more and more and more because it's a process. But there are big stepping stones, stages of it. And the more you take the steps, the more you potentially see. And the strength of your mind grows to where you can take more steps. It's meant to be a difficult training program, actually, because they don't need anybody to just float around on clouds. They don't, I don't, they don't do that kind of thing unless they have a spacecraft that needs to be in that cloud for some reason to hide maybe from humans because they don't want humans to think of them in certain ways before they're capable of it, of understanding what they're seeing. So understanding a little bit about what they're seeing. So anyway, these four living beings, each of them have six wings. And I believe that those wings, I'll get to the chat in a minute here. Um, well, it talks about the wings as birds, meaning a feather. So when I look at it in that context, I think, well, they're depicting them as something flying. That's the bottom line with that, right? So they're flying. So from a next level perspective, that's a spacecraft, in my opinion. And uh, and that um, and that describes them as being full of eyes within. So, in other words, within their spacecrafts, they have all kinds of viewpoints and eyes, observational eyes, on everything that's happening on the Earth and in the human kingdom. It's their labs. They've got lots of people working on all different facets, and they don't treat anything like um, well, everything has its ways of uh,
Function.
yeah, function and potential for future development in it. Whether it's trying to find a cure for cancer or whatever it is, it's uh, um, when the next level decides that individuals were um, in their own way looking to their minds by not going along with the status quo, by not, you know, you can see how many people just go along with the stream of, the leaders of this world.
Don't even think.
Huh?
They don't even think.
Right. They don't even think. They're just like responding. They're all like acting like robots and they don't know it.
They
And
think we're robots.
because they are robots and we can be robots too, unless we want to be in the program.
But we're crazy robots.
Yeah. Unless you want to be in the program of the next level. And uh, people aren't automatically in the programming of the next level. Just because you believe in a savior and a definition of God, or in science to solve problems, and you look to that history as your guideline and your understanding about what was right and wrong, you know. But then it's mixed in with what's been said, by humans about it, which has been distorted by the space aliens and diluted by the space aliens, which the next level knows is going to happen. But it sets up a balance to where you actually have among us the body of information that you could classify as misinformation. And it's misinformation doesn't mean that there's not facts in there. Okay, misinformation is full of facts, but uh, the ideas of where there is to go with the mind is what one of the ways of describing what misinformation is. And so you can look at that pretty simply. If you've got somebody that is actually projecting their mind out to the highest source that you can imagine in the universe that created this planet and the life forms on it, then and you put your mind into the stars for that, like Jesus said to the heavens. But the heavens, he was comparing to the lightning, of because that word lightning flowing through the earth, seen by humans, um, is talking about. It's based in the word Greek aster, and the Greek word for aster, the English word for aster is star, and it shows it as being strewn from east to west. So that means it's moving. So that sounds like if it's along the ecliptic, then it's going to be seen to us in the morning. If it's in that part of the heavens, by latitude on the plane of the Earth, it'll be in the morning sun. And if it's on the other side, then it's going to be the evening sun, and that relates to the astrological beginning of the sign of Aries with the rise of the sun, and on the constellation Aries at the time. The way it was depicted according to the time and everything.
That's
Of
nice.
birth and things like that, in relationship to where those stars are in that time, because it's all a big firmament above the earth. I think that's what they're talking about in that Genesis book. Uh, and you know, so so anyway, so the next level, I don't know, I got off track, but I just let me get back to the six wings and because I want to go a little further in that to the 4 and 20 elders. So those living beings, those four living beings with their six spacecrafts each that have all this genetic history. Um, so they're depicted in different ways. Um, because they've overcome those characters. You'll hear Tiendo in a few different ways, tiny few times that I can remember, talking about how humans have the characteristics of the animal kingdom that their minds came from, that their minds evolved from. And so you even have owners that are selecting their pets to be domesticated pets that can relate to their own strain. Some people are attracted to dogs. Some people are attracted to cats. Some people to, in different countries, other animals as pets, as domesticated animals. But so that for them to depict it that way is showing the progression of mind from the animal kingdom to the human kingdom, and then they're going. The task is to bring that mind, that information, that knowledge, that truth, that those concepts, those understandings, the wisdom, the choices, the strength of the desire of the individual to incorporate, to ask the next level to give them guidance in everything that they do potentially. Though you can ask for trivial things that aren't next level things, and they don't really want to hear that, and you probably won't get an answer for those things. Because if you're asking for things like wealth and stuff like that, they want you to have it in some ways so that you can have the opportunity to realize that it's not entirely going to satisfy you. If you want the highest form of wealth, which would be the next level's mind, because that's the only wealth that can get you off the top of the mountain, the human mountain. And see, that's what I thought that dream was talking about, was like uh, dragging the burden that we had in the human kingdom up to the top of the mountain.
But it wasn't a burden.
Well, maybe it's like protecting the information. Maybe it was what you said, you know.
Well, it's
Uh,
actually what you said.
okay, well, so that
How
might have
you
been.
explained it to me in the
Yeah,
beginning.
yeah, okay,
You
that's
should
good.
see if the chat is, if you know,
Oh, okay, yeah.
shouldn't
I'll
do
just finish the
anything.
thought here. The 4 and 20 elders, they fall down before him. And that's, the Greek word piptu, I think. Yes, piptu, which it's a fall down, but it also means light. They light down. So, in other words, to descend from a higher place to a lower place. That's what that actually means. So, that's the process that took place when a next level member leaves the vehicle that they have, or if the next level just saved that vehicle for a future time, I don't think that also happens too. Yes, that's right. Because if they've been saved in a next level bucket or storage area for souls, then then when they come back, they're actually going from that place. And if they're going back into the human kingdom in order to learn more lessons and gain more strength from those lessons, that's the purpose of it. Then um, uh, then they're also descending from a higher place to a lower place, and that was demonstrated as happening for these 24 souls uh, in the crash in some of the crashes where there were bodies found. And I think we can be fairly understanding to recognize that the crashes that were associated with being Roswell, which there was one in Laredo, that there was one member.
Did you see that article I sent you? That there's new images, new pictures that have been released that show the wreckage?
Oh no, I haven't looked at that.
Mm,
I gotta look at that.
yeah,
That's
you
right. I
do.
saw you sent me that, but I
Sure did.
didn't put my mind on it as fast as I should have.
Really, it's fine.
Yeah, I want to see it,
Go ahead, sorry.
but in the
Roswell.
Roswell crash was said to be four individuals. There you go with that four living beings. Maybe they
Mm-hmm,
came
living
that way.
beings.
And I was thinking that the Laredo one might have been Doe, and or it could have been T, but I don't know. It seems. But then there was the crash of like 18 bodies, and there were different numbers that were put out in the crash at Aztec in 1948, I believe, right after the 1947 crash, and
Aztec is north of Roswell?
it's north
Like,
west
kind
of
of
Roswell.
north.
Yeah, it's at the Four Corners area, but it's
Yeah.
still in New Mexico.
We went through there, close to it.
I think we did go close to it because I wanted to drive through it,
I
and I think we did, but there was nothing there really.
Well,
I
that's
don't
kind
even
of
know
all
if
of
there
New
was
Mexico.
it was like a small town, but we were kind of probably exhausted by that
Yeah,
time.
we were doing the trek. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but I wouldn't mind going back there, and you know, I think we will. I could be wrong.
I sure hope so. We get to go back there with the motorhome and
Yeah, it'd be nice.
it'll be wonderful.
Hopefully, the planet doesn't fall apart. I don't know. It's whatever the next level schedule is. That's what I want to be in tune with to whatever degree.
Just make sure you're around loved ones.
So to descend from a higher place to a lower. Okay, that's good enough for that. So that's the idea of what they're depicting as a fall down, and I just kind of tried to describe that, and that uh, they're sitting before the one that's sitting on the throne. So and they're working for that. And worship means actually to work for, according to Doe. to work for. So it's who you're worshiping whoever you work for. You work for who you believe in. I'm not saying that when you work for a human in the world that's providing you with sticks to buy your food and and everything. That's actually giving service to the. You are giving service, but that can be a good lesson opportunity also. But anyway, it's so. But it's the overall worship when you're worshiping when you're trying to work for, you're expressing that you want to work for the highest source that exists in the heavens, through all in the highest heavens, like I've been, I say over and over again, then that would be the mindset of being in that stream. And the next level will help you with that. And uh, I think that everybody that sincerely is asking the next level for that, um, uh, might have some. I'm not saying everybody will, but they'll have some opportunities. Many of them. I think that's a more accurate way of saying it. To get to know more about T and Do, but it may not be right for some to take that step. They might be moving from grade 7 to 8, or 8 to 9, or 9 to 10, or 10 to 11,
To two.
or 1 to 2. We don't know where the beginnings are, and the next level can save uh, whatever they want from this kingdom, including not just souls but spirits. And it talks about that in Revelation 19. That there's we don't know what their databases are going to be full with little these objects that or if many of them aren't in any kind of condition to where they can be useful to the next level in the next planting.
You
And
can
Doe
put
talked
it in the
about that in the
chat. You
previous.
can put it in the chat
Yeah, yes,
just to make sure that you're still connected, that everything can still hear you.
yeah. I type. Strange and Scary says I type fast, but only use my index fingers. I also have to look at the keys. I know I've seen people that type with their index fingers very fast.
Yeah. See?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to graduate, says Krell. Okay. Anyway, gonna drive home from work. Thanks for the stream and next level encouragement. Yeah, go for it, Krell. I mean, the there's nothing that holds anyone back from seeking to be a servant of the next level older members, T and O, and their crew.
I want you to clarify what do you mean when you say go, like Carl said they wanted to graduate and you said go for it. What do you mean by that?
Well, that anybody that's
What does graduate to you mean?
well, we don't know when that's going to happen and to what degree it's going to
I'm trying
happen.
to get nail you down. Like what are you saying when you
Do you think I need to bring that up, or
Well, I think you need to
because
clarify if you're telling somebody, yeah, go for it, graduate, like that could be
I'm not talking
construed.
about encouraging anybody to commit
Yeah,
suicide.
that could be
Of
construed
course not.
very
I usually
incorrectly.
usually I do address it at that point, but sometimes I feel like
You
um,
need to address it every single time that's brought up.
yeah, you're right. Thank you for that. Because to graduate, um, you look to what T and Do talked about. And they talked about that their position was against suicide. You can see that on the Heaven's Gate website. It's still there. It's one of the four.
Well, we don't
It's like
need
the
to,
fourth point down.
I mean, we don't need to like justify what like our personal position is against suicide. You, Sawyer, are against suicide. So, whatever the group did, you are not advocating for anybody to take those same steps, regardless of whether the group said that in any way at any time.
Of course, I'm not advocating for anybody to
I
take
just
those
want it to be
steps,
like really
but I
clear.
want to. I want to actually talk about what T and Do defined as suicide.
Yeah,
Because that's important to say as well, I believe. And that is that there's
human
that
suicide.
we're if we're in the human kingdom. and we have lessons to learn, then our task is to stand for Ti and Do. That's a big task, and there's consequences to taking that task, and maintain those consequences, maintain that taking that stand uh, um, for however long their vehicle lives, and and the other way of describing that is that all the souls that want to graduate, they're gonna they're gonna want to participate in getting their information out, getting the next level's information out, getting T and O and Crew's information out to other people, so other people can have the chance of recognizing what's being talked about. Now, I don't know anybody that can actually get the information out without a human having a vehicle. So to put any kind of focus on uh, the fact that those that left had graduated from the next level, another from and not from the human kingdom. Uh, um, um, uh, it's the relationship is between you and Doe, and to make any kind of assumptions is wrong. To assume that we are in a place that is, um, well,
I think that that's adequate. You
okay,
said,
all right,
to
thanks. Because
assume is wrong.
yeah, I'm
Period.
not saying that
That's it.
Krell is talking about that at
No, I
all.
don't think
I
so.
just have to
Krell
bring
has
this
been
up in this
around for a
way.
very long time.
Yeah.
Because I made some flippant comments not associated with this, and I realized that like it's not something to be flippant about.
Yes, it's true.
Like 39 people did did leave this, their physical bodies,
Right.
and that is not something to be flippant about. I'm not saying that Crow was being. Anyway, moving on. Sorry.
No, I need to do it every time. It's true.
I just see there's stuff going on in the chat, so I think while
Hi,
there's
Joseph.
hello Joseph, that I'm probably gonna go to bed a little earlier since I'm doing that one ride,
Oh,
and
you are going to do that? Yeah. Okay.
that's a decent amount. So
All right. Well, I'll finish with this, and I don't know
don't
how
worry
much more I'll
about,
say,
yeah,
really.
but don't worry about. I'm just saying because I haven't slept that much over the past couple of nights,
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I might sleep a little. I'm tired.
All right. So I'll try to keep my voice down better.
Don't worry about it.
I don't know how much I'll go on either because
I'll shut the
I
door
need to
soon.
get my sleep too. But anyway,
Yeah.
so XF is here. Says good afternoon. So we have a swarm of comets coming for our solar system.
Yes, lots to
Apparently,
talk about with that.
maybe it's the big surprise that Doe talks about in the Beyond Human series. I don't doubt that.
And
That
we were
it's
talking
part of it.
about fear and
Yeah, I didn't use the latest links that you sent me yet, except I just didn't have the time where I wanted to watch anything. But I'm gonna get
well,
to that.
we've been dealing with
Yeah, we've been dealing with
other
you know
stuff that
what,
we're not going to talk about at all.
right? So, but I'll try them. I'll let you know.
We're full-time lawyers right now.
Trying to be, I guess.
Anyway, that's all we're going to say. So people know we're not, neglecting or anything, like we're focused on that hardcore right now.
Yeah, for a little while longer. Anyway, let's see. So that's all that was there for that. So
Good.
I didn't get to the tape yet, so I need to go back to. Well,
With
I
the
did a
birdie and
little
stuff,
bit.
yeah, got
Right.
had a good
Yeah, right.
basis going
So let
there.
me see what else there is to talk about though in the tape, because I didn't finish that talk about that Doe didn't think that the disciples 2,000 years ago after Jesus left had gotten off track, the way that sorority was wondering if they did, and 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 he talks about how the that Jesus attempted to help them, and and he had been present with them at the time, and that it was an experiment that the next level was still doing to see how it's going to work.
I don't know.
They don't know when it start. They don't know when it uh, the details, but know the likelihood of X happening, and the Y's are relatively insignificant. That's kind of the way he said it. Uh, so, um, and that let's see, and that ultimately, after this task is over, talking about his task, um, that the time it takes to reach our uh, um, giving ourselves to the next level um, entirely was relatively insignificant, but except in terms of building muscle was very significant. So the time period isn't what's significant, but the building of muscle is what is significant. And the muscle building, and he said that he doesn't feel like we were at the station of growth that they were 2,000 years ago. We meaning souls that were here now in the human kingdom. But in particular, he was talking about the students that had, or with whatever students among them were with Doe while he was incarnate in the Jesus vehicle, even though he didn't talk about things that way. I'm telling you the way he talked about it, because it wasn't, he didn't make it anything personal. You know, like saying, when I was back here, uh, when I was 2,000 years ago doing that. He doesn't think that, because next level members, they don't want the focus to be on themselves. Human kingdom people want the focus to be on themselves. A lot of people. Yeah, it's just, a sense of being special and powerful, or whatever, that grabs people, some people, more than others. So, uh,
I didn't tell you. I found gas for $2.53 today.
oh, did you? Wow, that's a nice
I
price.
felt like it was straight from the next level because I wasn't thinking about it, and then I just kind of like looked over and saw a speedway for 253. All the other stations 309, 319, 329. I just found,
That's a nice find.
yeah. So that
Yeah,
was nice.
one never knows whether the next level is pushing a little button to
I
stimulate our attention to
I said
something.
thank you to Check Odie, and I thought about her as a blue and white cat.
That was funny. And I see. I don't know if that dream was accurate to being from Tiendo, but what I do know is that the thought that I had with it was that it was a fun way of depicting Chakotay as being in a cat vehicle with a human suit on, and well, not a human suit on, or a suit on. You know, yeah, yeah. He talked about next level members can borrow, is the way he talked about it, a human vehicle. Now, I believe the way that they choose human vehicles that they might borrow is if that human vehicle is asking their highest source in whatever way to help. Good night. Yeah, I'm hungry. I'm running out of steam. And Doe talks about how in this tape 285, a little more than halfway into it, uh, that he doesn't feel in his core that it's correct, it's right, it's from his older member's mind to expect to die. And at times, he's got to work like crazy with that expectation uh, to get the task done and then get out of here while the vehicle is still held together by, he called it bread paste, which was funny, or whatever it is that holds us together. Yeah. Oh, did he? He said work like crazy, but he said bread paste, I think, because he said it several times. I didn't understand it the first time. Bread paste. I don't know. Maybe I didn't write that down right. Yeah, sure. And Doe says that he does have to fight desperately against the influence that wants him to think we worked our best we can do, and to hammer and hammer and hammer needs to be done by students is like helping students learn to put nails in building a house. And um, and that one of the greatest demons would be to think that he did the best he could, and and he has to deal with a regular basis. He said of knowing that it's not predestined to be so. In other words, leaving their vehicles, and and he feels like he could be wrong, but deep inside he knows it's not predestined that he has to leave ahead of the students. Is part of the context of this, like it played out 2,000 years ago. And he talks about it as since his job is to help the students build muscle, that chip, that understanding, that instruction is intentionally being kept out of his next level mind so that it's in there so that he'll stay here to push the students. And it talks about in the record books that you have to that Jesus talks about having to press your way into the next level. In other words, you've got to put out the effort to block those influences that are trying to put you down or trying to get you out of that direction. And and so he can't entertain the possibility. He knows that logically that was a possibility of leaving the way that Jesus left ahead of the student body, but he can't believe it. And it treads on extreme disappointment if he feels the progress level if he feels the progress level to move fast uh, doesn't have desperation to it to complete the task, the proper kind of desperation, because that desperation is uh, to complete the task that his older member gave him. That's why he wants to complete the task and do it in the best way that he can, and whatever it takes, not bow out from it, which I've talked about before. He did was choosing to do at one point when he got Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and he felt like he wanted to just leave his vehicle, and he asked T if he could, and he felt like T told him that T was outside our vehicle at the time. He felt like T said that he could leave at that time. Um, which then he thought, but I wouldn't. What? How were the students going to be left? Were they going to start fighting with one another and things like that? And had they completed enough overcoming to be able to finish what left they had to do without him? And he decided that he wanted to cover his bets and be here for as long as until T made it clear by even having a physical experience with T or T's helpers, which they did have in 1995, that verified to him, just like Jesus got verification of the way that he was going to leave. Talking too loud? Oh, okay. Did you think I should stop? Oh, okay.
No, I'm just coming out for my night.
Okay, cool. Good night. Yeah, you'll be just laying down.
I'm definitely getting my fun.
I guess I'll go to the chat. Court core, says old school Dave. Except says all good with regards as to what you said about the links. I understand you and Kathy have a bunch of tasks with priority that require your solid attention. Yeah, it's a lot of times it's a matter of energy, your brain is worn out, and sometimes it's good to watch something when that's the case. But sleep is the best thing for a lot of times. Yeah, yeah, right. And going to work is actually has the therapy to it as well. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. And Doe was talking about how uh, they um, that in response to Dan Sody's question about whether they set up circumstances of desperation, and he was thinking like, and Doe said, "Well, yes, but they are puny, like moving to Atlanta. It's like when you change, like desperation comes when something is uh, causing you to change something that's difficult to change. right? So that can happen with health. That happens a lot with health, to where somebody gets to a place to where, at one point they think they're young and they don't have any concept of their health going downhill. And then they can be in a circumstance to where their health is going downhill, and they get a form of desperation with, surviving that condition. And I know what that's like because of things that I've gone through. And so I understand that reality of that. I didn't understand it when he was talking about it. I mean, so anyway, but uh, because my vehicle was still pretty young when I joined when I was 20 at the time of this one, 1987. I was 36 at that point. My vehicle, and so I didn't have that experience much yet. But anyway, but he's saying that. So Dan Sodi then asked him if uh, stimulating circumstances of desperation for the students to experience desperation. He wondered if it was like moving to a different craft or changing partnerships. And Doe said that was still puny. Example, because they are tools and types of circumstances, but they are minor. They can accomplish a little bit on the scale of 100, like an 8 or a 10 or a 12, but no higher. And then sorority chimes in and talks about the meeting the day before this one, and the lowering of the gate to get into the next level. Uh, the next level lowered the gate. In other words, uh, so he was wondering about what the disciples did wrong still. Um, but we're in a desperate situation. And though in response to that, but the students at that time were supposed to have an advanced desperation instead of being physically desperate because someone is chasing you out of a town because of what you're saying to them that some of them may think is threatening to their belief system. Well, that's pretty much what was being confronted with people, because if people had the mindset 2,000 years ago that was strictly Judaism, after Judaism went through a long period of time uh, of uh, of dilution and distortion, so that the people that were following it uh, no longer recognized what they didn't know, and because that's the way it works. The humans in generations, it starts to lose the perspective that was originally provided by the next level when the older member is incarnate. Um, and they don't know how to recognize the next level for what they are, and so they get glued to whatever records were left behind, and then they treat the rules uh, in strict ways, but they enforce them on other people. when that's not the job of humans to enforce the next level rules on other people. But since the lower forces want that to take place, because they don't want people to follow the rules of the next level, because it's like a verification that the next level is real to support their laws. So humans, are given justifications for killing, for example. Only in self-defense it's okay. And then self-defense becomes, keeping themselves safe from a potential uh, uh, enemy, and that becomes, keeping yourself safe from people that are talking hate and talking about justifying people being killed for their cause, which naturally, of course, if you're a part of the government, you're going to want to, have a bigger security state in order to stop people from killing people that uh, you believe have more of their value, regardless of whether the values of that individual that they're putting on a pedestal uh, have all kinds of things that are anti-Christian, for example. Anti-Jesus' teachings is really what people should be saying if they want to think of themselves as disciples of Jesus. But if they don't, if they only think of themselves as disciples of Jesus in the way that relates to that they interpret it from the records and from the ancestry, and they're not pressing for their heavenly Father to help them see what the current way of thinking, highest ways of thinking and behaviors and ways would be in this circumstance. If they're not looking for that, then the next level may still give it to them. Uh, and if the next level feels like they are working in a decent direction for the people that are not quite in the greater school of separating from the human kingdom, then, so in this way, all things can work together for good for those that love the Lord. That's actually a true saying, but of course, it's which Lord? And that, it's hard for us to determine it unless by their behaviors and ways. And so, if they're speaking with racism about people, even describing people as good or bad based on the color of their skin as being a criteria of judgment, then they're not really judging somebody the way that they want to be judged, because they wouldn't want to be judged by the color of their skin or by their gender or by their any other human characteristics, how much wealth they have, how much intelligence they seem to have, how much of religion they have, how holy they seem to be. We can't judge anybody by those things, I don't think, but we can judge what they do. And what they say is also what they do. So I believe people should be held to what they say. And but the next level is not necessarily going to give each other the karma that comes by saying what we think when that isn't from the next level's mind. And what happens is the other minds that are on this planet that see each other as enemies are going to deliver the karma back and forth. They're both going to be delivering each other the karma of their lack of pulling on the mind from the next level. Because the next level doesn't give us mind to wage war on people or to take somebody out, to murder someone, or to support somebody that murdered somebody, or to support somebody that uh, or to judge somebody saying that they deserve to be murdered, because that's not humans can't tell that. It's not right. It's just not something that humans are really capable of doing, unless they're not having any next level mind. Because then they would question saying that, and if they did catch themselves saying things that were condemning somebody else in that way, then they would want to correct it and not want to stimulate a civil war, not want to foster civil war by misinformation and deceitful behaviors in ways that it seems like is happening on all sides of the fence. And it's been happening on all sides of the fence for a long time, but it's coming to a head in this country. It's come to a head in other countries in the past, and you've seen major wars in those areas. And it becomes a big lesson of desperation when as that grows in the human kingdom, because it's actually the next level is allowing the circumstances of the lower forces being here, trying to win souls for their camps. And this is like the space aliens trying to get souls that can become part of their machinery at some level, because they're not going to probably have many of those human vehicles, and the souls that are and the spirits that are developing within those human vehicles, they're probably not going to have many of them on board their same spacecrafts, but they will have them as a part of their squadrons if they can get that to happen. But they don't want to give humans too many technologies, according to Doe, because they don't want humans to be a competitive force with them to where they can shoot them down. I don't know if that craft, that alleged craft that was depicted as being shot by a missile that apparently by the footage bounced off the missile. I mean, the missile bounced off and it made that object move, but it seemed to recover from that and continue to do what it was doing. I don't know if that was a next level craft or if it was a space alien craft. I do know that uh, next level, um, they can have damage to their crafts, and but they can also get them fixed. And if they get damage to the vehicles that are that manning that craft, if it wasn't a remote vehicle, um, then they can replace even the human, the not human, but the next level vehicles that are grown on a vine, that are or that's one example of how they're grown, and that are grown to adulthood. So they don't start as children, except that their minds start as children in terms of the amount of knowledge they have, amount of wisdom they have, amount of a perspective they have, amount of service that they're offering, are capable of as they grow. So, um, anyway, I got off the track again, but maybe I completed a few loops there. Um, and Doe was talking about how the next level, the same thing I've been talking about is that, uh, like the way that a world war drives an acceleration because it brings out the ugliness and it brings out those that have goodness in them. And the ugliness, people just being lawless, not Well, you mentioned stealing, which I know there's all different ways that that's been happening, of course, and that is part of it. But now, when you have stealing of the poor, when they're stealing, it's not the same thing as the way that uh, people steal. But I mean, so, uh, but but it's not a next level way to be stealing. I know there's ways of looking at that though that if you try to get the best deal for yourself with the IRS, are you stealing from the IRS? No, you're working within the system, right? So that's not stealing, but some people could probably see it that way. Some people think that if you don't follow all the laws of the land, even the speed limit laws, that you're somehow breaking the law of God when the speed limit laws aren't from, even though the next level may have influenced humans to, you know, hold certain, to come up with judgment on speed limits as a guideline, doesn't mean that that couldn't have happened with humans, because everything in human kingdom can, can come from the next level or from the space alien souls, which also bring upon the humans even their forms of having order, and maybe even behind speed limits and governments and the law systems and the misinformation mind. But that doesn't mean that all the law systems are they're not Luciferian. They're not lower minds. It's a person by person basis how anybody acts in the human kingdom, whether they're seeking their highest source or they're not, and doing it in their own way is part of that. And the next level are the judges of everybody in that regard. So I'm not putting down anybody in any position in government. Don't have the capacity, and why do it? It's a waste of time. We can't change it. Maybe our vote can have some effect, but relatively speaking, no, it doesn't have any effect because the space aliens have an agenda, and the next level have an agenda also. And so, if it's the end of a cycle, however long it takes for that cycle to be completely recycled, and however many lives are lost because of it, lives of vehicles, it's um, it's part of being in the human kingdom. We all know this, that our vehicles don't live forever. So to strive to, the next level allows humans to strive for that, but then I think they allow the humans to strive for, endless life, eternal life, or, you know, uh, because the space aliens are trying to do that. They're trying to grow vehicles for that. And so, all the biological experiments that are happening and the hybridization projects that the space aliens have been accused and witnessed doing for many, 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 many years, or at least decades, a number of decades, uh, uh, the humans are still doing the same things. Especially when they got evidence that there were different kind of biological vehicles that had different organ systems, and so they're looking to, if some of those organ systems look like they're very young by their genetic evaluation, and yet they may be harboring a soul that's very old, and old meaning experienced, because age in itself isn't a measurement of experience and knowledge and all the other characteristics of a higher being of the human kingdom, out of the human kingdom. But so you got the humans, they're all um, being manipulated. but choosing to be manipulated because of believing in the different directions that they're going. Because they wouldn't have these ideas of, they talked about Satan was sacrificing children. Well, yeah, because they don't care about the age of the vehicles, the space aliens. If they can use space little children in order to get their whatever body parts, their DNA in all different ways, then they'll abduct them or they'll get humans to do it. Because they don't necessarily have labs that humans have any more than the next level has labs that humans have. Because the next level doesn't need to grow babies in test tubes because they already know how to do that. They construct the babies uh, after developing the next level member and the human kingdom member. Uh, becomes the um, like the style of vehicle that the next level is that comes about through the mixture of next level mind and human mind through the mixture of the biology as well in the sperms and eggs because they all carry the history of the ancestry of what they became in the database, the spiritual database, the mind database of all the deceased humans. So it's so I don't doubt that the next level are behind those comets, not space aliens, but the humans are going to think of them as space aliens because that's the way that the space aliens think, and the space aliens are bombarding humans with that thinking because they've got a lot of them have this concept of God as being some kind of etheric God. They don't generally think of God as being in a spacecraft. It kind of blows their minds if they haven't developed that reality of thought. And there's all kinds of evidence of it, but that's why the next level couldn't talk in terms of that evidence until that evidence developed so that humans could actually do test tube babies and in vitro fertilization to degrees. And I had the thought today that even if RFK Jr. Gets on to stopping certain funding of certain projects that are doing all kinds of things with chemicals and injections and you know what, uh, if it gets them shut down, that's not going to stop the development. It's just going to mean that the government isn't giving money to that development or directly money to that development. But the government's going to find ways of trying to get it in other ways through grants and things, and if they can't get it through grants and things, they'll get it from billionaire developments. The banks, seeing it as a good development to try to come up with biology to extend their lives. Because all those CEOs and things, a lot of times they want to live forever and they want their children to live forever if they can figure out how to do it. And this has been in development for a long time. He founded the Clonade technology in France surrounding using technology to have eternal life because he was given that information according to his book by the space alien souls. It's a direct example of the hybridization project that Doe was talking about. that they were talking about in the 80s. T and Do were miles and miles in thought ahead of humans, but humans are catching up to some of it because the space aliens are accelerating that. Because the more problems there are in the environment among the humans, the less they have to cater to the the previous things they catered to. Because they find justifications for taking away the funds here, like for food stamps, because because of and they use the justification as being this fraud in that system. So now they can make it harder to get them. But the next level has a hand in things. I'm not going to say as well because they've got the bigger hand in things. So they can see to it that what the humans try to do to limit people from having choices and having food on the table through food stamps is a great choice, in my opinion, because we pay our taxes and we get nothing for it, just about nothing for it. So why not give to the people at least the ability to eat? So that's where the point of view that was coming from the left is more of the next level point of view. Not that the next level wants us to have to depend on the government. They don't really want us to, in general. But I don't know in this circumstance right now if the next level thinks that's a kind of a minor kind of desire, and that whether because I think they can be in favor of us having credit, even though it's not a way of the next level to operate by credit. Um, but the circumstances, huh? Yeah, live by whatever we can find a way to do it without hurting somebody else or taking away somebody else its free will. Okay, now the background of the air conditioner is off,
So you don't have to.
so I don't have to yell so loud. See, I'm a little hard of hearing, so that's why I think I end up talking louder than I need to. I can see my little thing here. I can see when it goes into the red. Hello, hello. It's barely going into the red then, but at least the volume will be easy to hear. You have to turn it down if somebody is wanting to listen to it. But no, I'm just going to go to the chat, and I don't think there's anything new in the chat, so I'm going to bring it to a close. I tried to go through a lot of things that I hope can be of some value to someone. Yeah. Well, you probably should because I'm going to make something to eat, and I don't want to wake you up with my noise. Oh, okay. Yeah, I hear you. I get you. I get you. All right. So, yeah, I'm going to bring it to a close. So, good night, folks.